We welcome you back to Foxborough. If you think back to this past Super Bowl, we had a nice moment that we showed you prior to the Eagles and the Patriots getting together. Teddy Bruschi with his two boys, and then Bruschi was such a big part of the New England Patriots victory. Their second in a row, third time in the last 4 years they've won it. An update on Teddy Bruschi. Let's say hello in the preseason to Pam Oliver.
Hey, Joe, before you think the loss of Teddy Bruschi would be devastating, you have to understand how the Pats are built, and that is not around one guy. Bill Belichick says that everybody on his team is a leader. He calls them stockholders. He hated to lose Bruschi, but he said that is football. Safety Rodney Harrison concurs, adding that there are so many leaders on this team, you don't have to really do extra to make up for the loss of the famous leadership skills of Bruschi. As for the man himself, Joe, he's around the facility quite often, but otherwise he keeps a very low profile, not wanting to distract from the guys who are playing.
All right, Pam, thank you very much. So they lose Ted Johnson, who retired in July, 32 years old. Trauma to the head. Teddy Bruschi has his stroke in February. So really, when you talk to Bill Belichick, other things he says is the closer to the middle of the field, the smarter you have to be. So they're looking for guys to fill in those inside linebacker spots. And it's really an open audition, and part of that audition will take place here tonight against the Saints. The Patriots will start with a football, and this is Kevin Falk, who will get the bulk of the work at running back tonight, taking it from the 5, and a good move out to the 24. That's where the Patriots will start with it. And Tom Brady will head to work. They love him around here, and the golden child heads into the huddle. Troy says, I don't have to apologize for my golden boy image. You never had to apologize
well,
for your golden boy image.
There's a little article that came out in GQ. It almost sounded like he was in fact apologizing for that image. But you know, you can talk about the numbers, you can talk about the two-time Super Bowl MVP and all that he has accomplished in a short period of time. I think the thing that makes Tom Brady so special is he's still very unaffected by it all.
Little play action to start his night, and that pass is picked off, intercepted by the newest New Orleans Saint, Dwight Smith. And that's about as bad as you can start the preseason. Coming off a Super Bowl, he threw it right into the gut of Dwight Smith.
A little bit like what Donovan McNabb had happen to him last Monday night. You see Tom Brady dropping back. Dwight Smith just gets a good beat on this, and Tom Brady throws it a little bit behind. Dwight Smith, who used to play some corner, playing safety, but he can also come in and play that inside slot position, and you put him on a tight end, even a guy like Ben Watson, who's tremendously gifted. You got to get the ball on the sideline.
That's not a bad start for the guy who got the 5-year deal and is trying to do for the Saints what Bucky Jones did not. And Tom Brady, his only friend, the Gatorade bucket right now. First down for the Saints. And Aaron Brooks to work right over the middle. He hits his fullback, Carney. And Carney picks up 5. Aaron Brooks, if you look at the numbers, they're great. I mean, did you realize that the last 4 seasons he's one of 2 quarterbacks with 20 or more touchdowns and 3,500 plus passing yards? Peyton Manning is the other guy. The problem is the most important stat, and that's wins and losses, and it is time for Aaron Brooks to lead this team to the next level, and maybe division, surprise Atlanta, maybe just get him into the playoffs would be a victory for Aaron Brooks and the Saints organization. Second down and 5. And a deuce. And McAllister will be a yard shy of a first down, brought down by Rodney Harris.
I think when you talk about Aaron Brooks, Joe, you're absolutely right. If you didn't know any better and you just look at his numbers and what he has done, you would say, wow, this guy has really played some great football. The problem with him in recent years has been that he makes the critical mistake at critical times in ball games. And so in some ways, he has been part of the problem in keeping this team win. Certainly this team has high expectations as they move through this season. They feel that they have a playoff caliber team, but they're going to have to eliminate those mistakes that have plagued Aaron Brooks.
Play clock is down to 2. 1. That'll be 5 yards. That was going to cost New Orleans 5 yards. So even though on 3rd and 1 the pass was incomplete, it never happened.
Before the snap, delay of game, offense, 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
That's Walt Anderson And he will assess 5 to make it 3rd and 6.
Yeah, and one of the things that the New Orleans Saints have been working on all offseason and on through training camp, you see there, Aaron Brooks has got a wristband on his wrist, and he gets a number from the sidelines. It's number 5 or number 12. He reads it off the card, and then he goes to the line of scrimmage. Part of them going to that process is to allow him more time at the line of scrimmage. You cannot get up to the line of scrimmage with that kind of time and have a delay of game penalty.
Look at that thing on his wrist. It's an armband. Brooks on 3rd and 6 fires, and the pass is complete for a 1st down to Joe Horn. And Horn is an interesting story we'll get to after the lineups as we look at the guys that will protect this New Orleans Saints talent squad. And by talent squad, I am talking about the quarterback, the running backs, the receivers. This offensive line is pretty good, and they love their 1st-round pick, Jamal Brown, the kid they picked up from Oklahoma. The talent positions, the skill positions, McAllister and Carney in the backfield. Horn, Stallworth, and Ernie Conwell is the tight end. 1st down. McAllister bouncing it to the outside, and McAllister ridden out by Harrison after he picked up 2. And let's talk about Joe Horn. I mean, he's put up great numbers year after year. And while a couple of years ago we were talking about a cell phone incident, his act has changed a little bit on the field.
Well, I think it has, Joe, and I think part of the reason why he went through some of the antics that he did a few years ago was that he really has taken a long, hard road into the National Football League. He played in Canada for a couple of years. He was a 5th-round draft pick by Kansas City. It really has not been since he's gotten to New Orleans that he's become one of the premier wide receivers in the game, and now I think that he's letting his actions on the field speak for himself.
2nd down and 8. Brooks in trouble. Dances. Has Gandy out in front of him to protect him. Still can't figure out where to throw it. It's incomplete as he throws it away. That'll bring up 3rd down and 8.
Well, you talked a little bit earlier about Jamal Brown, the right tackle out of Oklahoma, the rookie right tackle, and you watch him as he comes out. He's blocking, and he senses now that Aaron Brooks is going to be rolling out to his right, and he moves along with him, still maintaining separation and not getting downfield, so that Aaron Brooks could have thrown the ball down the field had he have elected to do that.
They're getting Brown ready for the season opener against Carolina and Julius Peppers. 3rd down and 8. From the shotgun, the pass is caught. That's Devery Henderson, and he picked up 6. So he'll be short of 1st down yardage. They marked him down just inches inside the 5-yard line. He needed to get to the 3, and the field goal unit will come on for the Saints. So Devery Henderson, who is trying to secure that 3rd wide receiver spot, made a nice grab in traffic, but short of 1st down yardage, and a 23-yard try is coming from John Carney. One throw, 1 interception. Will it lead to 3 points? Nothing to it for Carney. Feel good? You all right over there?
Yeah, I feel strong.
Happy to be back?
Yeah, happy it's football season again.
It's 3-0. Saints on top.
This Fox NFL special is sponsored by Bud Light. Smooth and refreshing. Bud Light, great taste for your great times.
One area that the Saints are proud of and happy with is their secondary. And the guy that they added from Tampa Bay, Dwight Smith, got a 5-year, $15 million deal. As Troy said earlier, he can play safety, he can move up, play cornerback. He did that with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this was a team that didn't pick up a lot of takeaways last year. This was the worst ranked defense in the NFL, and Smith is the guy that they're really centering their optimism around as they've added him to go with Bellamy, McKenzie, and Fakir Brown. A pretty good secondary.
There's no question, Joe. They need some playmakers, and Dwight Smith, as we already saw there on that first possession for New England, he provides those big plays.
Berger kicks it away, and it's Falk again. His 2nd return, and Kevin Falk returns it 18 yards. They'll mark him down at the 23. Take a break, come back. Tom Brady gets a do-over with his team down 3. There's the score. Carney good from 23, and the Patriots will start with the ball just inside their 30. They brought it out to the 29. A late call on an offside on the kickoff called against the New Orleans Saints. Take a look at the offensive line. Logan Mankins is the rookie left guard who they love. Tom Ashworth is the starter at right tackle tonight, but there's an open competition between Gorin, Ashworth, and Kazir. And then the skill positions. Kevin Falk gets the start. He takes over for Corey Dillon, who had a fantastic year last year. Patrick Pass is the fullback. Troy Brown gets the start. Saints took a run at him. David Givens and Daniel Graham. So after a lengthy discussion on the sideline with Bill Belichick, a rule that was put in before last year, on an offside on a kickoff, you could do one of two things. You could force the team to re-kick from 5 yards further back, or just add 5 yards onto the end of the return. Initially, they marked the ball down inside the 30, and this exciting explanation will end with me telling you that they're going to re-kick from the 25.
The last thing any head coach wants to see is another kickoff in a preseason game. I don't think Jim Haslett's happy with the decision that Bill Belichick made to have him re-kick this one.
But these two are making secret deals.
That's what we hear.
About how long their starters are going to play.
Secret deals that neither one of them knew about.
Well, we know, at least we've been told by Jim Haslett, that the starters for the Saints are going to play 3 quarters into the 3rd quarter, maybe even a hair beyond.
And we could have kissed him when we found that out.
Yeah, I mean, because then you're not looking at 2 guys wearing number 76 trying to make tackles. On the other side, we could barely get out of Bill Belichick that Tom Brady was going to suit up and play. So your guess is as good as ours at this point.
Well, and God forbid that you ask who's calling plays.
Oh, I can't wait for that explanation. Okay, everybody was onside on that kickoff. And Ellis Hobbs, a rookie cornerback, takes it right back up the middle. And after all that, a 4-yard difference in field position for Tom Brady. Brady, who has won 3 Super Bowls. Troy Aikman won 3 Super Bowls. Bradshaw and Montana each won 4. And look at the relative ages of those quarterbacks when they won their 3rd. And Terry Bradshaw can still do it. And if you didn't know this, Troy, he called his own plays.
Jimmy said he only had 4.
So the wristband could be a lot smaller for Bradshaw.
Could be a bracelet.
Here's Falk. Falk with some inspired running, picked up 9.5, maybe 10. Grant on the tackle.
You know, Kevin Falk, I've got to tell you, I mean, there's so much talk surrounding this New England team about the unselfishness of all the football players that are on it, and none epitomize that more than Kevin Falk. I mean, he's really a terrific player. He's a role player, but when he's called upon to go out and do something, he does it with a smile on his face, and was a big part of what they did in the playoffs last year.
Second throw for Brady. First one didn't go well. This is aired out and caught by Tim Dwight. Tom Brady took a big hit, and after wrestling for the football, Dwight came down with it, and it's a 45-yard completion from Tom Brady to one of the new Patriots, Tim Dwight.
Hey, you're going to see Tom Brady take a shot at the end of this play. Left tackle Matt Light lets his man loose. Tom Brady hangs in the pocket, however, gives Tim Dwight an opportunity to go up and make a play. And this is one of those young receivers for this team that has a chance to make the squad. They're pretty much solidified at 1 through 3, but Tim Dwight has the ability to contribute.
45 yards on the completion, and Brady has plenty of time and finds Falk. Falk is eventually walloped by Grant, but not before he picked up 9. 2nd down and 1.
You know, we talked a little bit about how the plays are being called from the New England sidelines, and I'm not sure why it's so top secret as far as who that is coming from. And the more you talk to people, you start getting the sense that it's a collective effort by a lot of those coaches, and it's not just being called in by one guy.
Dan Klecko is in at fullback, and he leads on that carry by Patrick Pass. And Pass has enough for a 1st down. 1st and goal for the Patriots. So there you go. Even without Charlie Weiss, there's Klecko in at fullback, and They wonder how creative the offense will be without Charlie Weiss. They've got a guy, Troy, a quarterback, that if they're in a bad play and Tom Brady can get them out of it, they've got a smart guy on the field, and they've got a triumvirate of guys that are getting together to call plays. First and goal. They hand a pass, and Patrick Pass is in for the touchdown.
Well, that's the drive that they were hoping to have there on the first possession, but they do this for the most part through the air. They come back, they hand the ball to Patrick Pass, typically a fullback. They got him playing the tailback position. They just get some good movement along that left side, and they're able to get the necessary yardage for the touchdown.
Klecko threw a good block and helped Pass get into the end zone. This guy's pretty good. Vinatieri at 7-3. That's your garden variety 5-play 67-yard drive that covered 2 minutes and 45 seconds. 7-3 New England. Touchdown run. There's Tim Dwight. You remember him from San Diego, from Atlanta. And Robbie Gould will kick it away with a good return man, Michael Lewis, waiting deep for the Saints. And this is Lewis from the 3. And penalty flags come flying on the return. Don Davis on the tackle. 22-yard return by Michael Lewis. And we will get the call from Walt Coleman.
During the return, holding number 55, receiving team. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down.
That's Courtney Watson, who is a second-year middle linebacker for the Saints side. And the secondary, and there is a starting job open in the secondary for the Patriots. Brooks hands off to McAllister, and Deuce McAllister picks up 1.
You know, we mentioned the wristband. There it is right there. And there's some quarterbacks in the National Football League that do use the wristbands, and they feel that it helps with communication rather than having to repeat a play 2 and 3 times to get it to the quarterback. It happens very quickly, and you're able to get to the line of scrimmage with plenty of time left on the clock. Mike Shepard, the first-year offensive coordinator for the Saints, is the one who implemented that process.
Pressure by McGinnis, and what a hit. That pass incomplete. Rodney Harrison doing his thing, even though it's only August. Don't tell him that games don't matter. This guy has been nothing but a leader since he came to the Patriots, and what a stalwart he was in that banged-up secondary a year ago.
Well, he's always been a big hitter. He comes up high on him there, but you know, we were talking to Rodney Harrison just the other day, and he said that this year is the first year that he's only had to practice once a day. He's not gone through 2-a-day practices. He says his body feels great, and as we can see there, he's certainly not afraid to come up and hit, even though it's a preseason game.
That was Ernie Conwell, and he did get both feet down, was not able to do another football act. Incomplete is the call, and it's 3rd down and 9. Looked like McGinnis came across too early, working on the rookie Jamal Brown. And the two teams start to push and shove. I think this could very well go against McGinnis, unless he saw Jamal Brown flinch.
Yeah, you know, McGinnis, it looked to me, Joe, like you said, that he came off a little bit early on Jamal Brown. Again, this is the rookie right tackle, and clearly McGinnis was early. And, you know, you watch Jamal Brown, and McGinnis comes back in his face, and, I mean, Brown holds his ground. This is just
number
a second
75
preseason game.
Offense. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
They get Jermaine Mayberry, the former Philadelphia Eagle. And so it's a penalty against Mayberry. It backs the Saints up to their own 6. And it'll bring up 3rd down and long for Aaron Brooks.
Well, and that's one of the areas that the Saints really feel like they have to improve on. They cannot have the pre-snap penalties. They had entirely too many of those last year, and they've already had too many tonight.
3rd down and 14. handoff is to Aaron Stecker. Stecker breaks loose. He's across the 20, and they're going to mark him down very close to first down yardage. It's a left foot mark, according to our line, just a couple of inches short of a first down. And we'll have an August 18th test for our first down line.
I think that's an element that Aaron Stecker provides you. He's more of a third down back. They want to utilize him in that role, and when you can put the ball in his hands with his kind of speed, he's able to pick up at times those long down yardage.
Our line is right on, about 4 inches shy of a first down. And Stecker, when McAllister, Troy, was banged up last year, did a good job at a 100-yard rushing day at St. Louis, and he is going to be that featured third down back to try to take some of the load off Deuce McAllister, as you say, and he was inches short, and the Saints are debating right now.
Well, and that's why you know that it's preseason. In a regular season game, you would never try to go for it. Well, they're not going to go for it here either. They're going to bring out Mitch Berger and let him punt. That is the right decision, but sometimes in a preseason game, in order to keep a drive going, you'll go against that and go ahead and go for it on fourth down.
Well, this was a Saints team that was frustrated a week ago with the way they played, even less than a week. They lost to Seattle 35-15. They turned it over 3 times in the first half. And you can look at the face of Jim Haslett. That looked like movement on the Saints. I mean, this has just not been a good start to this game other than the Dwight Smith interception. That'll be 5 more on the Saints.
Before the snap, false start, number 56, offense, 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
That's local product Alfred Fincher, who's from Norwood, right down the street. That's already 5 New Orleans penalties here in the opening quarter. And Berger hits a good one. Tim Dwight from inside the 35. Tim Dwight shows off that great speed. And he's inside New Orleans territory. A return of 19 yards. When you think 6.5 to go, first quarter, and the Patriots will start with it at the New Orleans 48. Good return on that punt by Tim Dwight. And now with Dwight split out wide to the left. Givens out wide to the right. Troy Brown in the slot. Changing it up at the line was Brady, and he hands to Falk. And Kevin picks up 2. This is what preseason is all about. Talman Gardner, who's trying to make his presence felt as a 3rd wide receiver, didn't give up, trying to cover that last punt.
And that's not a lot of fun. If you're Talman Gardner, however, if you're going to have a chance to be on this team and contribute, not only do you want to be a wide receiver, but you have to make your presence known on special teams, and that's how he's going to earn a roster spot.
3rd season from Florida State. 2nd down and 9. Brady fires, and the pass caught by Dwight. Dwight. And that completion is good for a first down, a 13-yard pickup for New England.
Yeah, Tim Dwight, he's an 8-year veteran. You talked earlier, he had been with the San Diego Chargers. He's working against a good corner in Fakir Brown, but just an outstanding route right there, and driving Fakir Brown off the ball and then coming back to the sideline and making a play. And I've always liked Tim Dwight. I think he can make some real contributions to this ball club in a lot of areas.
Handoff is to Falk. Shows some speed. He's brought down by Brian Young from behind. Half-yard pickup. Next week, we will be in Washington or thereabouts, as the Washington Redskins will be taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers and Big Ben, who made that huge splash as a rookie last year. And the question is, can Patrick Ramsey get it done? He's got some talent around him. John Jansen is back. Linton Portis, one of the best backs in the league. But last year, with Joe Gibbs' return, they were 6-10.
Reload. 55 Omaha.
2nd down and 9. Falk. shakes one tackler. Bockwell runs him out of bounds after Kevin picked up 6.
You know, one of the areas for this Saints defense over the last several years is they've had no consistency at the linebacker position. Colby Buckwalt right there, who made the play, was really the big surprise for this team last year. He came on and he started the last 10 games of the regular season and did a heck of a job. And they just decided that, hey, we're going to go with some young linebackers that are going to help us and develop. And he wound up being one of the better players on the field over the last 4-game stretch.
3rd down and a long 2. Brady fires, and it's Graham, the tight end. Still going down inside the 20. They've got some big bodies at tight end. Daniel Graham, Ben Watson, the veteran Christian Fourier, and they use them all.
Well, it's such a luxury when you've got big tight ends like Daniel Graham, who have exceptional hands. He can move people after contact. And then you combine him, who's been one of the better tight ends for this team, with the addition of Ben Watson, who was hurt all of last year. They've got a pretty good group of tight ends that should help them.
They're excited about Watson, who's got a 40-inch vertical. Got great speed. Falk on a toss. Penalty flag on the carry, and Falk shakes and bakes. He's out of bounds at the 5, forced out by Dwight Smith, but a flag is down.
Holding, number 72, offense. 10-yard penalty, still 1st down.
We talk about Charlie Weiss not being here. He's now the head coach at Notre Dame, and about the decision-making process for New England. I think it's worth going over again that Belichick is involved in the decision-making process. They've got the 29-year-old quarterbacks coach, Josh McDaniels. They've got Brian Daboll, the wide receivers coach. They've got Dante Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach. And out of that group, somehow a play gets into the helmet of Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Brady steps up and drills Troy Brown. Kraft on the stop, and Brady, those eyes found his veteran Troy Brown for 17 yards.
Well, you watch Tom Brady. This is where he's really exceptional. He'll look, and he'll look people off there. You see him pump to his right. It opens up the lane that you're going to see there for Troy Brown. Troy Brown, one of the veteran receivers in this league. Watch how he sits down right there in the hole. Tom Brady knew where he was going to be, move the defender, influence him, come back for the completion.
2nd down and 3 in the hand of Patrick Pass. Cuts it back up the middle, still going, and Pass is down near the 5. I love seeing you get excited about a quarterback. And I know that Tom Brady and all that he brings together in that package, number 12, and what he's been able to do, and the attitude he has about everything gets you excited.
Yeah, it's the attitude in which he does it. You know, you're not talking about a guy who's throwing for 4,000 yards or more in a season. He just goes about his business. He understands the position the way that it should be played, and that is ultimately you're measured by whether you win or lose, and nobody's done it better than him here over the last 4 years.
9-0 in his career in the postseason. That pass incomplete. Gibbons, the intended receiver, and Mike McKenzie, a guy who held his way out of Green Bay, was there defending.
Yeah, and Mike McKenzie is one of the reasons why this team did get so hot there at the end of last season. I mean, here he came in at the beginning of the year. He started 11 games, and over that time he had 5 interceptions. He had a real impact on this team. I really think he's one of the better corner players in the league, a very physical corner as well.
2nd down and goal. Blitz coming. Brady fires, and the pass incomplete for Brown. And there's Dwight Smith, who already has an interception, getting his left hand in there and breaking up the pass.
Well, we talked a little earlier about Dwight Smith and his coverage skills. He was covering Ben Watson when he got the interception. Watch him now as he's covering Troy Brown. Troy Brown tries to put a move on him to get him on his heels, and yet that's still good coverage. Tom Brady put that ball the only place that he could, and in order to give Troy Brown an opportunity, it really had to be high and away.
10th play of the drive. It actually went off the hands of Brown. Good coverage by Smith. He did not get his left hand on it. And on 3rd down, that was a miscommunication. Gibbons broke it off, and Brady was throwing for the back corner of the end zone. McKenzie was defending, but Gibbons and Brady were not on the same page. And you asked the question of Bill Belichick, one of the questions that he answered. How does Brady get better? And the answer was he gets better with his timing with the individuals that are around him. He's playing great, but there's that one-on-one time with each guy that he's trying to get the ball to, calling plays, changing it up at the line. There are ways for him to get better, and he and Gibbons couldn't connect on that. 10-3. New England adds. It's on top. Under a minute and a half to go in this first quarter, and the Saints are not looking too good tonight, and they did not look too good against Seattle. And Jim Haslett's answer after that was, the sky is not falling, Henny Penny, it's just preseason. But at some point you got to get it flowing, and that's not happening right now. Gould kicks it away, and Lewis takes it from just inside the 5. Michael Lewis shows the speed out of bounds at the 25. Season in review for the New Orleans Saints. They finished 8-8, but they had to win their last 4 games to get there. A lot of people believe that might have saved Jim Haslett's job. They allowed the most yards in the NFL. They had the worst ranked defense last year of all 32 teams, and in the first quarter they scored the fewest and allowed the most in the NFL. And then some would say, well, because they're playing from behind, that leads Aaron Brooks to rack up all the yards. That's why that stat is a little bit misleading.
And it also keeps you from being able to run the ball like you'd like to.
And they've got a good one in McAllister. They hand to Deuce McAllister right up the gut. Picked up 6, back down to Pam Oliver.
Hey, Joe, and in talking with Aaron Brooks before the game, the thing he said he was most excited about where the offense is concerned is, frankly, the change at offensive coordinator. He says with Mike Shepard, they now have a coach who they feel listens to the players. Only a slight diss for the departed Mike McCarthy. We also got a chance to talk about how secure he feels his future is with the Saints. He says beyond 2006, he knows nothing. Owner Tom Benson is here. He says maybe you should ask him. Remember, Joe, they just locked up 2 offensive stars, Deuce McAllister and Joe Horn, to extensive contract extensions, but so far nothing for the quarterback.
Well, the quarterback's got a lot to prove. First down for McAllister, and I guess, Troy, if you're going to sink your money into a guy, McAllister would be one of those guys because he is a leader type. He played hurt last year. He doesn't want to check himself out of the lineup, and he's the kind of guy that you can build a running game around.
Oh, I don't think there's any question, Joe. He's a young player. He's been a productive player, and everyone across the league is looking for someone like him who you can depend on. I mean, last year was somewhat of a down year for him. He still rushed for over 1,000 yards. He missed a couple of games because of an ankle injury, but he's the type of guy you want on your team.
McAllister gets it into New England territory, and in 9 seconds, you know what'll happen?
Tell me.
It'll be the end of the first quarter, and we will have gone a full 15 minutes off the clock, and we will have not 2002, the NFC South. Bucks won it in 2002, the Panthers, and then the Falcons last year. Is this the year for the Saints? Brooks steps up, fires, and he throws behind that big tight end Zach Hilton, who is 6'8", 268. That'll bring up 3rd down and 7. If that's the case, and if they're going to win this division, you would have to believe that as they talk about streamlining the offense, you streamline the offense. One of the ways to do it is to run the ball.
Well, and that's what they want to do. That's why they brought in Jermaine Mayberry. When they brought him in to be the right tackle, and it wasn't until they drafted Jamal Brown that Jermaine then got moved down to guard. No question, they want to be able to pound the football this year.
Have to throw on 3rd and 7, and the receiver fell down. At least one did, and Stallworth comes up with it. Hilton fell down. Stallworth was behind him, and Dante is good for 25 yards and a Saints 1st down.
Yeah, and Dante Stallworth is one of those guys who they're really expecting for him to have a breakout season this year, much like what Javon Walker did last year in Green Bay. He's working against Asante Samuel, who's a good corner. You see the quickness there that Dante Stallworth has. I know as soon as Mike Shepard got named offensive coordinator, Dante Stallworth called him and asked him, is there any way I can line up as a slot receiver? It's something he feels that he's very good at, and they're going to use those receivers in a lot of different ways.
Deuce McAllister hits the hole hard, and Deuce picks up 1. Mondays this fall, one man will risk everything to unlock the truth and save his brother's life. Don't miss the 2-hour premiere of the groundbreaking new series Prison Break, Monday, August 29th, right here on Fox. And the early buzz on the show Prison Break has been very good, so get in on it early. Monday, August 29th at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right here on Fox. Second down and 8 over the middle. There's Hilton. And Zach Hilton has a first down inside the 10. Rodney Harrison on the tackle after a gain of 14.
Yeah, you take a look at this protection. This offensive line is really revamped. It's been somewhat of a domino effect because of the players that I mentioned just a minute ago that came in. And you can form a pocket, and I got to tell you, Aaron Brooks, when he has time to throw, he can deliver the football. He's really a talented guy and does a lot of good things. The big key for him is just getting some time so that he doesn't have to try to start improvising and trying to create plays. That tends to be when he gets into a lot of his trouble.
That ball was tipped and caught by Hilton. McAllister to the 5. Deuce McAllister, who got that 7-year extension that Pam Oliver referred to earlier, has had 30 rushing touchdowns over the last 3 years, and a guy who rushed for 1,600 yards 2 years ago, and they'd like to get him back in that neighborhood.
Well, and Bill Belichick can't be happy right now with the way Deuce McAllister has run the football. They're going to be facing some teams, like Jimmy Johnson said earlier before the game, that like to run the football. They've got to shore that part of their defense up.
Play action, Carney out of the backfield. The pass was tipped. Roosevelt Colvin, who's finally healthy, got his hands on that pass. Guy who had 10.5 sacks a couple of years ago for the Chicago Bears, signed on with the Patriots and then had a dislocated left hip. Last year he was healthy enough, but these days he's finally forgetting about how his hip is going to react, and he's using his instincts to play good football.
He's really a remarkable story. Yeah, he had the injury in September of '03, and he just now is feeling pretty good. His 2 best games last year came in the championship game and then in the Super Bowl.
3rd down and goal. Brooks under pressure, gets it away, and the pass incomplete. Penalty flag is down in the end zone. Willie McGinnis was coming hard at Brooks. The Saints are indicating this one is against New England, as Brooks just got it away.
Number 37, defense. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
That is the smiling Rodney Harrison, guilty of a hold.
You know, you talk about some of the changes. Here you got the rookie, Jamal Brown, and he's working against Willie McGinnis. And so that's one of the areas where he's going to have to get used to. These guys at this level, particularly a guy like Willie McGinnis, I mean, you have got to be able to get out of your stance and get a block on him. And here's a look at the hold on the backside.
Harrison had a hold of Ernie Conwell's jersey. The automatic first down. They stay on the ground with McAllister, and Deuce puts his head down and gets it very near the goal line. But he comes up just shy of a touchdown. 2nd down and goal.
You know, Willie McGinnis, he's pretty wound up. I had a chance to visit with him before the game. He was really looking forward to getting back out on the field and playing tonight. And he has, I don't know if something happened earlier. We saw the altercation between him and Jamal Brown, but he has gotten into it with somebody here each of the last 3 plays.
2nd down and goal. They hand to the fullback Carney, and Carney is in for the touchdown. Mike Carney, who is a very good lead back and a good blocker, gets the ball on the handoff and comes into the end zone from 1 yard out. And with the extra point coming, this, for the moment, makes it a 1-point game.
Pretty good surge there by that New Orleans Saints offensive line. Running right behind LaCharles Bentley, who had been a right guard 2 years ago, got moved to center for the first time last season.
Preseason or not, it looks like Carney's going to keep that football. It is good. Off the left, upright, and through. Half of that. You get on this field and you look at the outside of it, meaning near the sidelines, and the grass is thick. It's plush. The middle of the field is torn up. Here at Gillette Stadium, this is Ellis Hobbs, the rookie, getting another chance, and a kick return has a lane. And Hobbs is out across the 35. They'll mark him at the 36, a 30-yard return. Crap. And that interception. Starting with it outside their own 35, just shy of the 37. The Patriots in a 10-10 game.
Hey, Kobe, let's go.
And wide open is Troy Brown. He got away from Jason Kraft. McKenzie was in the vicinity as well, and another completion. And let's listen to Tom Brady at the line on that last play.
Hey, Kobe, let's go.
Handoff is to Pass. And Patrick Pass picks up 2.
And what we didn't see on that last play was Jay Bellamy, the safety for the New Orleans Saints, came through free and got a shot on Tom Brady, but he recognized it was a blitz. He checked into max protection to try to pick it up and stood in the pocket and was able to get the ball out to Troy Brown. And those are the types of things that Tom Brady does. I mean, he will hang in the pocket until he absolutely has to deliver the strike. And that's why a lot of people talking about.
That's Pass carrying it up the middle for 2.
That's why when a lot of people talk about who's calling the plays for this offense, Tom Brady has the ability to audible at the line of scrimmage. And as he said to us, it really doesn't matter to him what is called, because if he doesn't like the play that's called, he's going to change it at the line of scrimmage anyway. So he's very comfortable with however the plays are coming in, that ultimately he'll still be able to get this team into a good play.
Third down and 6. Brady lets it loose and overthrows Givens. That'll bring up 4th down. One other interesting sentence that Brady gave us during the meeting was about Bill Belichick. And he said, Bill Belichick, I'm telling you, is not any more involved in our meetings than he has been in any other year. So while everybody thinks he's behind the curtain calling every shot on offense, he's not in the meetings any more now than he has been in years past. First punt by Josh Miller. And it's about as good as you want. To the 2. 42-yard punt. Fresno State.
He had a much better look just a couple days ago.
A couple days ago, we were all reminded that he's a rookie. Handoff is to McAllister, who gets it out to the 5. When you go through your first training camp, the veterans, and McGinnis was a big part of this, helping give haircuts to the rookies. And 2 days ago, here's how a lot of the young guys for the Patriots looked. And my favorite is Raymond Ventrone right there, number 41, that guy.
I think the white guys got the worst end of the deal.
But Ventrone said, they made me look like Mugatu from Zoolander. And as everybody knows, Mugatu is the one who was made famous for inventing the piano keyboard tie. Ventrone's trying to make this team as a backup defensive back, and McAllister picks up 1. Tully Banta-Cain was the first one there. They ever mess with you as a rookie out of UCLA?
I remember when you just sang fight songs when you were a rookie, but not anymore. We take a look here at Jamal Brown. I tell you, he pulled out on that last play, and his favorite player when he was in college watching him play was Kyle Turley. Of course, Saint fans are very familiar with who he is, and he has the same nasty streak that Kyle Turley has. He's a big mauler, and he's certainly playing already much more advanced than you would think from a rookie.
3rd down and 7, and a handoff to McAllister. Deuce McAllister picks up a first down for New Orleans. With just over 8 minutes to play, a handoff and a gain of 8.
And I think that's got to make Jim Haslett very happy there on 3rd and long. And then you run the draw to Deuce McAllister. You get Jamal Brown again out there leading the way on the backers, and you get Charles Bentley. And you know, anytime you can get the ball into the hands of Deuce McAllister in space, he's going to make some people miss. And Jim Haslett made no bones about it. In order for us to have the year we want to have, Deuce McAllister needs to rush for 1,500 yards.
On first down, McAllister knocked down just shy of the 20, picked up 5.
Yeah, I don't want to get too excited here about Jamal Brown, but I got to tell you, I mean, this guy, look at the job that he does there at right tackle. I mean, he comes off the ball, and once he engages on somebody, he just does not quit. You see it over and over on film when you watch this kid play, and he will go until the whistle blows. I mean, he's driving a guy off the ball 10 yards. You just don't see it. The only other guy I've ever seen do that at this level is Larry Allen of the Dallas Cowboys.
That was 13-year player Chad Brown. 2nd down and 5. Protection from Brooks, and the pass is picked off. It stayed in the air, and Harrison grabbed it. Rodney Harrison back the other way. He fumbles. The ball is out, and it's recovered by Marquis Hill. The ball was knocked away by Joe Horn. The pass was intended for Horn. It stayed in the air. And Rodney Harrison was there to pick it off. Then he fumbled, but Hill, the 2nd-year player, got on top of it.
Joe Horn runs an outstanding route and giving himself a chance to make the play. No question, he should have caught that ball. The ball's right in his arms, but because of the bounce there, it comes up. Rodney Harrison being around the football, but guess who is the guy who knocks it then out of his hands? Joe Horn never quits on the play, comes in behind him, and is almost able to get the ball back into the hands of the New Orleans Saints. That's great hustle by Joe Horn after a mistake, coming back in and trying to make something happen.
Now Doug Flutie is in at quarterback on 1st and goal. The Massachusetts native hands to Eckel. And Kyle Eckel is in to put New England back on top. Eckel, who is a commissioned officer in the Navy, graduated from Navy in Annapolis, is on leave right now, and he shows you why the Patriots are willing to put up with a lot of scheduling difficulties to get him in a New England uniform. A powerful back who had a great career in Navy. An honor that went to Deion Branch.
Yeah, I mean, he had 4 interceptions just in postseason play, 2 of those coming in the Super Bowl.
Gould kicks it away, and Michael Lewis starts with it from the 5. Has a lane to run, and Lewis down the sideline ducks out shy of the 40. So from our little spot here in New England, we talk about, I mean, we've seen a lot of things here tonight. I guess as the Saints go back on offense right now, I know you want to talk about Jamal Brown, and I know you're impressed with how they've kind of pulled it together here, and they've actually played about a nice quarter of football.
Yeah, not bad other than the turnovers. And I think that if you're Jim Haslett and you're wanting to see how your offensive line's going to do, Jermaine Mayberry, Jamal Brown, we've talked about him, the job that he's done, LaCharles Bentley there at center, and then Deuce McAllister, most importantly, running the football. I think they have done a good job, and as I've said, if they're going to be as successful as what they hope to be, they've got to run the ball much better this year than what they did last year. When they went to the playoffs in 2000, they were one of the better rushing teams in the NFL.
Handoff is to Antoine Smith, a former New England Patriot, and he picks up 3. Are those glasses real, or is that just part of the new look?
No, unlike yours, mine are prescription.
Oh, yeah. Right. Sally Jesse Raphael glasses.
Yeah, I'm not real proud that I'm having to wear these, but it's the only way I can see what's going on out here.
2nd down and 8. It's good. I mean, your best days are behind you, Troy. It's time you grasp that.
Well, not everybody can pull off those looks like you can. I mean, you're pretty seamless.
Yeah. 2nd down and 8. Antoine Smith. Big hole to run right through, and he's out to midfield. Gain of 11. On August 28th, get everything you'll need for your fantasy football draft in one place. JB, Terry, Howie, and Jimmy break down depth charts, cheat sheets, sleepers, and busts to get you ready for draft day. FoxSports.com fantasy football preview presented by DirecTV is Sunday, August 28th at 3 Eastern and Pacific, only on Fox. If you had to start a fantasy football team with one guy, Troy Aikman, who would the guy be?
I think it would have to be Peyton Manning. It's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Off his back foot. Pass is incomplete. Intended for Dante Stallworth.
Boy, big Vince Wilfork, the nose tackle. He's got the job all to himself. Last year, he alternated with Keith Traylor there at the tackle position. And, you know, he's not really much of a pass rusher, but you can see there he's got some athleticism. He's got some quickness, and he's a big man. I mean, he's 325 pounds. And check, if there was one guy who you'd really hate to lose on this team, it probably would be Vince Wilfork, because they just don't have another guy to play that position.
On 2nd down and 10, Antoine Smith cuts it upfield. A nice run. And Smith picks up 7, brought down by Eugene Wilson. If you ask Vince Wilfork what he wants to do more of this year, it's what we just saw 2 plays ago, which is rush the quarterback, determine if it's run or pass earlier, and get after the quarterback, which he did on Aaron Brooks 2 plays ago.
Well, what I think what's really amazing about this defensive front for New England is they are a very talented group. Richard Seymour, Vince Wilfork, Ty Warren, who's not playing tonight, but they're also very young. Seymour's 25, Wilfork 23, and then Warren 24. These guys are going to be good for a long time.
3rd down and 3, and the pass caught by Horn. Wilson makes a touchdown saving tackle. Horn is down just inside the 23, picked up 21 yards.
Well, Joe Horn wanted to make amends for the earlier drop that led to the interception. He's in the slot. He does a good job there of starting pull to the outside, jumping back inside, and giving Aaron Brooks a place to throw the football. Of course, Aaron Brooks put that ball right on the money, which allowed Joe Horn to continue to get vertical after the completion. And you know, Joe Horn, who has just been exceptional for this Saints team over the last 5 years.
On 1st down, Antoine Smith down inside the 20, pushes the pile forward. Since 2001, the combination of Aaron Brooks and Joe Horn have hooked up 37 times for touchdown throws. That's 3rd in the league active wise as far as guys that are playing right now. Top spot belongs to Manning and Harrison, no surprise, and Culpepper and Moss. That duo has ended, and then it falls to Aaron Brooks and Joe Horn. Horn with 2 catches in this game. 2nd down and 5, Antoine Smith. Seymour in on the tackle. You know, Antoine Smith and Aaron Stecker are going to give relief to Deuce McAllister, mainly on 3rd down during the regular season, to try to keep McAllister fresh deeper into the season. They bring in Johnny Rowland, the former Rookie of the Year with the St. Louis Football Cardinals back in '66. There's Johnny Rowland. And he had been with Green Bay, and what Hazlitt wants is kind of that rotation that they had going with the Packers, with Najee Davenport and Tony Fisher giving relief to Amon Green. Brooks lost it, gets it back, and rushes forward about 2 yards shy of a 1st down. Klecko was the first guy to get his hands on him.
You know, the Saints get right on the verge of doing some good things, and they just have some pre-snap penalties, or you drop the ball and it keeps you from trying to keep drives alive and come away with touchdowns.
It's the 2-minute warning here in New England. Saints on the march.
Defensive line.
Here comes a 33-yard try from Carney. who made 22 or 27 a year ago. 17-13. Coming up on the Visa halftime report. Fire up the Jets. They'll be out of here. Minute 55 to go in the first half. Ellis Hobbs is waiting deep. The kick from Berger. Hobbs has shown a nice burst returning kicks tonight, and he shows it again. Ellis Hobbs, the rookie from Iowa State, still going. Inside Saint territory, Ellis Hobbs, a third-round draft pick, returned it 50 yards.
Well, the return game has been one of the problems for this New England team. They don't have a lot of problems coming into this season, but the return game was one of them. And you know, Ellis Hobbs, he's really been a tremendous addition to this football team. He's a third-round draft pick, and now they found another spot for him other than just being a corner. I mean, he shows some real ability here and some quickness in being able to get behind that wedge and pick up some big yards.
Doug Flutie was in on the touchdown handoff to Eckel, and now they announce him his second tour of duty with the Patriots. On first down, Flutie fires, and the pass to Dwight. These two used to hook up in San Diego, and Dwight and McKenzie get into it. A 12-yard completion. Doug Flutie now in charge of this Patriot offense. 18 of their 22 plays have taken place inside New Orleans territory. Running the 2-minute drill. Flutie. Passes caught. Anderson. His second touchdown of the preseason. Jason Anderson, a rookie from Wake Forest, hauls in his second touchdown pass of the preseason.
Yeah, and Jason Anderson just kept playing, and he got in behind Fakir Brown, and Doug, pretty good coverage. Doug Flutie just got the ball up where only Anderson could come down with it. Fakir mistimed his jump and couldn't get a hand on it.
It's an 11-point lead. Flutie's been in for 3 plays, and the Patriots have scored 2 receiver spot. Now what are the Saints going to do with 1:08 remaining? Michael Lewis would like to match the return of Ellis Hobbs. Michael Lewis would like to match the return of Ellis Hobbs, and he gives the New Orleans Saints great field position after a 37-yard return. What's coming up on Fox Saturday Baseball? The New York Yankees, right now at last check, a game and a half out in the wild card, taking on the first place, running away with it, Chicago White Sox on the south side. Or the Giants and Cardinals, Padres and Braves this week at 1 Eastern. Red Sox and Angels late. Minute 2 remaining in the half. A blitz coming from Banta Kane, and the pass is completed to Dante Stallworth.
It's a great opportunity for Aaron Brooks to get a little extra work in the 2-minute offense.
It's too loud in here for that kid. Doesn't want a pacifier, just stop yelling.
Get the kid some milk.
Hey guys. Terry Bradshaw studying charts and graphs. Second down and 2. Aaron Brooks is in trouble. Klecko chasing him. Aaron Brooks not in trouble anymore. He's inside New England territory, but a penalty flag is down on the play. It was thrown by the head linesman at about the 42-yard line of the Patriots, and this appears to be against New England. That was a 13-yard run for a first down.
You know, this Dan Klecko, he just showing up everywhere tonight, and not just tonight, but last year as well. You know, Dan Klecko, he led on that touchdown earlier.
Number 37, defense. 5-yard penalty.
He was a fullback a few plays earlier, leading on the touchdown. And now they've moved him to nose tackle, and he's pursuing Aaron Brooks. And last year, he played nose tackle, he played fullback, and he played linebacker. Obviously very versatile, but in trying to do all that, he kept having to decide, okay, do I put on weight? Do I lose weight? Do I put on weight? And I don't know how you make those decisions in the middle of a ball game.
He's the Renee Zellweger of the NFL. Blitz is coming, and the pass is dumped off to McAllister, who's back in there. And Deuce McAllister, with Zellweger on his back, makes the reception and picks up 8. There was pressure by Chad Brown, who came on a blitz.
Yeah, we laugh a little bit about Dan Klecko, but I tell you, I have great respect for him because, you know,
that's all he does. 2nd down and 2. 1 timeout left for New Orleans. Brooks hangs in there and fires. It's incomplete. And again, Horn dropped it.
You know, that's a ball that Joe Horn has had some problems. In last week's preseason game, he struggled with that one as well. And that's not a bad throw. In fact, that's a very good throw on Aaron Brooks's part. When you're throwing the ball over the middle like that on a slant, you want to put the ball down low and protect the receiver. But that's a couple times now that Joe Horn has struggled with coming in with the reception.
3rd down and 2. 1 timeout remaining. And the Saints trying to make it a 4-point game again. They hand to McAllister. Deuce McAllister with a 1st down, and the Saints will burn their final timeout. Oh, no, they won't. They're wasting a lot of time.
Trying to clock it. That's probably the best thing to do still is clock it.
So 16 seconds remain. And the Saints hang on to that final timeout as they've got a 2nd and 10 coming up.
You know, when you talk about the no-huddle 2-minute offense, the thing that I was always amazed about as a player is they really only practice. This is teams in general. Practice the 2-minute offense at the very end of a Thursday practice, and even then they're just kind of going through the motions. And I bet if you go back and you look in each season, every team in the league can win or lose 3 to 4 ball games just based on how they execute the 2-minute offense, and yet it's really not paid a lot of attention during the course of a week in preparations.
2nd and 10. Brooks is in trouble. Penalty flag on the play. Brooks throws it away. This is in the area of a hold. Tully Bantakane with pressure to flush Aaron Brooks out of the pocket. And we'll see if this is against New Orleans. Only 9 seconds remain.
Holding, number 72, offense. 10-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Yeah, and Wayne Gandy, the left tackle who was called there for holding, he was the 2nd most penalized in the National Football League, 2nd most penalized offensive lineman in the National Football League last year. And you just can't have those. You can't have those when you're trying to establish drives and then they set you back. And John Stinchcomb, who was a highly drafted player a couple of years ago, was pushing Wayne Gandy for the starting position, but he has blown out his knee, and Wayne Gandy will be the starter going into this season.
2nd down and 20. And they hand to McAllister looking for better field position. They'll use their final timeout and bring Carney onto the field to try and make it an 8-point game.
And that's what helped New Orleans.
39-yard try. Good snap. Hold is down. Kick is perfect. And a relatively clean first half. An 8-point lead for Bill Belichick and the world champion New England Patriots. Visa Halftime Show is coming up. JB, Terry, Howie, and Jimmy right after these messages and one word from your local Fox station.